Napoleon Hill wrote a document that was so controversial that he never had a chance to publish in his life. His wife, after he passed away, would not publish it, and I actually have a copy of the original manuscript right here, as well as an article from Psychology Magazine that's going to reveal to you where this came from and shine some new insights on what I think is the best thing Napoleon Hill ever actually wrote. Hey, this is Russell, and welcome back to my vault. Today I pulled out literally the coolest stuff I have to share with you because this week in the mail, I got something really, really special. It's this magazine right here. It cost me $5,000. You may be like, why would you spend $5,000 on a magazine? The magazine is called Psychology. And what's interesting is there's a couple of articles in here from Napoleon Hill. One's called The Secret of Faith and Fear. There's actually an article in here from Napoleon Hill's wife talking about some of her complaints about most wives. It's kind of funny. But the most important thing that I found out, and it comes back to the picture. You see there's a picture of the devil here? Napoleon Hill, inside this magazine, for the first time ever, wrote an article about a conversation with the devil. Anybody who knows anything about Napoleon Hill, that may have just struck a little chord in your mind. Like, wait, what? He wrote about a conversation with the devil in Psychology Magazine? How is it even possible? Now, you may have heard of what is literally my favorite Napoleon Hill book called Outwitting the Devil. I'll tell you the story, and I'm also going to show you the actual manuscript of this book. I've got the straight from Napoleon Hill's typewriter here to show you here in a second. One of my top 3 favorite books of all time. Definitely my favorite Napoleon Hill book. But the story behind it is insane, and a lot of people don't know it. So in this book, he basically is having a conversation with the devil. It's almost like the devil's like in a courtroom. He's on the stand, and Napoleon Hill asks him questions, and anything he asks, the devil has to respond. He has to tell him the truth. He's not allowed to lie, or else he'll perjure himself, right? So he's doing this conversation, and he's trying to figure out from the devil, like, how are you able to control the hearts of man? Like in Think and Grow Rich, it was all about, here's all the steps you got to be successful. But Outwitting the Devil is about like, people are trying to be successful, but the devil is holding, or like something's holding them back. Like what's holding them back and why are they doing it? And so controversial that Napoleon Hill writes this the year after Think and Grow Rich, and he never publishes it. He's scared. In fact, he even talks about it in the book. Like the devil warns him, like if you ever publish this book, like you'll be destroyed, your career will be ruined, no one's going to ever trust you again. And he shares in a lot of things about the tools that the devil uses to hold people back. And a lot of them are religion and school and all these things that are controversial nowadays, but were very controversial in 1910, 1920, right? 1930s. And so that's what this is about. And again, I'll show you this real quick. I'll open this. Is the actual manuscript. This was his wife's copy. This is signed by Annie Lou Hill. When Napoleon Hill died, he never published this book. After he died, Annie Lou got it. And again, this is literally her copy from Napoleon Hill's typewriter. She got it. She read it. And she's like, there's no way we can publish this. This is too controversial. It'll ruin everything. So she didn't publish it. After she died, went to the Napoleon Hill Foundation. They got it and they read it. And the first couple, the CEOs of the foundation were like, we're not going to publish it. And eventually, when one of them got it and said, this is probably the best thing he ever wrote. We should finally publish it. And so they worked with Sharon Lechner, who she took this manuscript and she edited it and cleaned it up and pulled out all the stuff that's not relevant nowadays and made by far the best version of the book. It is insane. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I recommend listening to it though. The audiobook's the best because you hear the devil and Napoleon Hill fighting back and forth and back and forth. And in this book, you learn one of the most powerful powerful things that the devil uses to hold you back, which is what Napoleon Hill calls drifting. In fact, one of the books I'm working on right now is called The Driven versus the Drifters. And it's all about kind of like step 2 of this, of like how the devil's trying to get people to drift. Now I want to tell you why I'm so excited. Because this week I found this magazine. I got it shipped to me. And it's the first time outside of 70, 80 years after Napoleon Hill wrote this book that we found proof that he was like thinking about this. He wrote an entire article which was basically the precursor to Outwitting the Devil. And it's here inside the magazine. So I'm going to show this to you really quick because when I found this, I was like, there's no way that this is the thing. January 1940. So it had been somewhere between the time he was writing this book or finished the book, but again, he never published it in his life. It's called The Devil Confesses, January 1940. The place, the devil's headquarters in Washington. Present, the devil and a philosopher who has discovered how to appropriate the devil's secrets. And it goes directly into the dialogue, just like the book. I don't know if it was written before or after the book, but as you read it, there are things that are very similar. There's also things that are a little bit different. And it was just so fun to read. The only other time that Napoleon Hill specifically talks about this conversation that he had with the devil, about how the devil's holding people back from being successful. And that's why I was freaking out. And I wanted to show you guys on a video because this is the only copy I've ever seen. I don't think anybody even knew it existed until I discovered it this week. Literally one of the coolest things I've ever found in my life. I'm a nerd. I'm so excited. In the book, Outwitting the Devil, and in this article, they talk about a lot of things, right? He's asking the devil, like, how do you, what are you doing? How's it working? So he can kind of reverse engineer it. He goes through a whole bunch of different things. And one of the things that the devil talks about is a thing called hypnotic rhythm. And I think about a hypnotic rhythm, like whenever I think about being hypnotized, it's like you're getting sleepy and you're getting hypnotized and you get into this like hypnosis. The hypnotic rhythm is like, It's like a pattern, right? It's something you get back to over and over and over again. And as I was reading that, I was thinking about just my own life first off. Like, there are times where I've used like hypnotic rhythm to be more successful. Like, I get these habits and routines and I do something over and over again that are really positive. But I also have things I do that are very negative, right? I think most of us, we get our phones and also we're in hypnotic rhythm, we're swiping and you're just kind of going forever, right? And he said the goal of this, getting people into hypnotic rhythm, is to get them to drift, to become drifters. And he said that there's two types of people in this world. There's drifters and there's non-drifters. What are all the characteristics of somebody who's drifting, right? And it's like people, they don't think for themselves. Like, they just, everything they hear on the news or on TV, they just believe it's true. They don't do their own research. Like, all these things where they don't take control of their own mind, letting other people influence their mind and influence their brain. I think all of us see this so much on social media, but I think what a lot of people aren't willing to do is to point backwards and be like, is this happening to me? You know, in fact, Napoleon Hill, in a lot of his books, one of the laws of success, he didn't always have it as one of the laws of success, moved around, but one of them was called accurate thinking. And it's like learning how to think accurately, not just what's given to you. He also talks about drugs and alcohol. You know, when he wrote Outwitting the Devil, back then, there weren't a lot of people fighting against drugs. It wasn't like a thing. They didn't know the health risks of it. And he was coming out back then saying, you shouldn't be smoking, you shouldn't be doing these things. And you think about why, it's like, well, because it creates this hypnotic rhythm that's destroying your health over and over and over. And he's talking about that. He's talking about just all the things that the devil uses in his powers to get you into a drifting state. And if you get into a drifting state, then you get stuck in this hypnotic rhythm. It's really easy to stay there. He said that the devil controls 98% of the world. 98% of the people, he's convinced them to drift. Only 2% of those who have a definite purpose, who are driven, who are the non-drifters. And when I read that the first time, I started looking at myself. And I'm someone who's pretty driven, but there are areas of my life where I drift. And it's interesting, I started thinking about okay, in this area of my life, my business, like, I'm very driven, like, I'm awesome, right? But over here at the time, like, my health, I was struggling with health. I'm like, man, I'm completely drifting in my health, right? Spirituality, like, I'm drifting here, and my family, I'm doing good here, but not over here. And so I started looking at just different areas of my life, and not just classifying myself like, I'm one of the 2%. It's like, I'm one of the 2% in this area, but not these other areas, right? And I started looking at those things and how do I accurately think? How do I make sure I'm not getting addicted to things that put me in hypnotic rhythm? And I think that's why I loved Outwitting the Devil so much, is the first time where he takes the other direction. Not like, here's the things you need to do. Instead, it's like looking at what are the things that are keeping you from being successful, right? And I think that's almost more fascinating. It's the things that hold most people back, because you can look at, here's the laws of success, follow these processes, here's the step-by-step things I need to be successful. But yet, if it was just following those steps, why isn't everyone doing this? Because there's resistance pulling you the other way. He calls it the devil. You may call it resistance. You may call it, laziness, whatever you want to call it. But that tug of war between the two is the battle we're fighting every single day. And I think Napoleon Hill in this stuff is the first time I ever found it in a way that's just fun to read. It's interesting, and it shines light on what he says is the devil's number one secret, which is getting people to become drifters. Inside Secrets to Success, the first time I introduced this concept of like drifting, how to not be a drifter, I gave everyone an exercise. And I had somebody one time challenged me to do it, and it was horrible. It was painful, but it was so revealing. It's something I think we should all do at least once a month. But I did it once, and then I had every one of our members do it as well. And it was really fascinating. And all it was very simple, is just doing a time block. We have a piece of paper, and it's like 6 a.m., 6:05, 6:10, and it's the entire day. And what you do for a day or for a week, depending how long you can handle the process, is every 5 minutes, so you look down and you write what you're doing. And what's interesting is that most people think that they are being very productive throughout the day. When you start doing time blocking, it's really interesting. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I spent 45 minutes on Instagram, right? I spent 22 minutes just daydreaming. And you start looking at it like, wow, I'm only putting in an hour a day or 2 hours a day or whatever that might be. And so I did the very first time. And for me, it was interesting because I started finding I'm a pretty productive person. Like I get a lot done. I leverage things to have success. Simplest yet most painful things you can do to really quickly realize like, wow, I am drifting most of my day, right? Or half my day, or maybe I'm good over here. I'm good at these 3 things with my family, or I'm good at the gym, but I struggle with, this part. And I think for me, that was the first time that it shined a light on it. I was like, wow, I have so many gaps that I need to look back on and start figuring out how to fix and get myself from drifting. There's a trigger, and then you slip into a pattern. And then what we have to do is figure out like when that trigger hits, like you have a little gap in time where you can go and you can actually stop and not fall into the pattern. Instead, figure out what's the new empowering pattern. Like what's the hypnotic rhythm that's going to benefit you. If you guys want a copy of the actual interview with the devil. This is something that I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of don't want to publish this right now to everybody, but for you guys on YouTube, I will get you guys a copy of this interview. There's gonna be a link in the description down below. Click on that, you can download it, and you can read the actual devil confessing interview from the Psychology magazine, which is really cool. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. I wanna hear what you guys think. If you've read the book and contrast it with this interview, if you haven't read it yet, hopefully this will inspire you to go and actually listen to the audiobook of Outwitting the Devil. Make sure you get the version that was edited by Sharon Lechner. It's the best one. It's amazing. And this book changed my life. It can change it for you as well. But down in the comments, you have a chance to get access to the Q&A from the devil. I hope you enjoy it. Thanks so much for watching the video, and we'll see you guys on the next show.